Hello, I'm back again today. This will be part 2 of the floating cherry shelves that I was working on in the last video. Today they are done drying up, all clamped up. It's been a couple days. Nice weather out, gonna be hot today though. Been a couple days where they're drying, clamping. I just didn't have time to get to them. You really only need about a day or maybe 5 or 6 hours. I'm going to go through the process of unclamping them, scraping the glue off, sending them through a open end drum sander because I do not have a planer big enough to plane them down. Gonna get them all smooth, cut them to rough sizes. I do not have final width yet because the walls that these are going on are not completely finished yet. So I'm just going to cut to rough sizes, square up, and we'll go from there. Alright, hope you enjoy. Okay, so here are 2 of our shelves clamped up still, leaning up just before I actually get to them. Here is the 3rd one. I already took the clamps off. I'm getting ready to scrape the glue off. And for that, I will actually show you the tool that I use. I have all this paper on here, like I said in the last video, to avoid the black marks. If you look at this, it might kind of fumble around a little. On the underside, I actually missed a little with the tape. Right here is where the glue hit the bar because the paper folded over. And that is the black marks I'm talking about. That is what we're trying to avoid. Thankfully, this is just one, so I don't have to worry about it. But, yeah, there's that. The glue scraping tool that I use is buried up here. It's just a handheld scraper. It has 4 different edges on it that you can see. They really surface the same purpose. They're all just scrapers. There's a little sharp burr edge on here. Same with these. And it's just used to scrape the bulk of the glue off. Alright, see ya. Okay, I got my 3 shelves scraped on one edge, or one face I should say. And I never explained, the reason why you scrape is because you want a smooth, flat surface with minimal minimal bumps and ridges for it to go through and bounce on or bind up on. So this one's all scraped. You can see that there is still some glue left. I'm not trying to get all the glue, just getting rid of the bumps. Then over here, this is the top face that I did not scrape. You can still see there's a lot of bumps. So when it goes through the sander or a planer, those bumps, if you don't scrape them off, will cause the board to bounce up and down, and you don't get an accurate grind or an accurate cut through a planer or a sander. That's why you get rid of them. Another thing is, this is a open end drum sander. I happen to have a 1836, so I can fit 18 inches wide one pass, or I can double end it and have a 36-inch wide panel all the way out here and just spin it around. It's called an open end drum sander because, let's see, all the way down here, it is open. So you are allowed to pass through pieces larger than they are. A couple things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be running it technically the wrong way. You don't really want to run anything cross grain. I have a nice coarse belt on here that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be running cross grain because I want to be getting rid of a majority of the imperfections quickly. When you run cross grain, it is very aggressive and takes a lot off at once. So I'm going to be running it through this way, and I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to run this edge through. Once I get the majority of it down, then I will run it through the sander this way and alternate, and then run it this way. Alright, I'm going to set up a time lapse so you guys can watch that, and hope you enjoy. So that was just a belt failure. That was my own doing, I guess. I saw this before, this strip that went down through the drum earlier. I figured maybe I could get some more life out of the belt, but I ended up overtaxing it and it came off and got destroyed. Not a big deal. I'm just going to go put a new belt on right now. Short clip of that, and then gonna go back to the time lapse. Okay, so that pass, or that set of passes, is all done. As you can see, our boards are nice and flat and smooth. All the glue is gone and everything. On the drum sander, I had 60 grit, and I was running, like I said, against the grain. So if you can see across here, you see all the sand marks, straight lines. I want to get rid of those. So now I'm going to set up the drum sander with 80 grit, and I'm actually going to run it through the sander and the grain direction to get rid of those. After I do 80, I'm going to do 120. And that's all I'm going to go for now until at least I know what dimensions are and everything so I can finish sand. I'm going to set that up and set up another time lapse. Okay, I finished with the drum sander. I actually skipped 80 grit and went right to 120. I don't know, I just felt like saving a little time. Doesn't really affect too much. I ran everything through, and now you can see it's all nice and smooth. There is no sander marks of any sort that I can see. Still needs to be orbital sanded, but that's not going to be until everything's cut to size and I have the dados in that I need. So right now, what we are going to do is I am going to use a track saw to cut these edges straight and square with this edge, the front face. I'm using a track saw because I cannot run this through a table saw against the fence without it rocking. And you can use a track saw, you could use a straight edge with a skill saw, or if you're lucky enough and you have a table saw that has a sliding table, that would be ideal. But I don't have that, so I'm going to use a track saw. And that is this right here. It sits on top of this rail that goes on here. That will end up getting squared to the front face, which I'm not going to do right this second, but that gets squared to there. And then these clamps right here slide into the tracks underneath and clamp on so it doesn't move. Once that's all set up, your track saw will then sit on this track. It has a groove right there that stops it from moving. Let's move this over to the edge. When you engage it, you're able to cut down and through the board. So I'm going to do that to all three on one edge, and then we're going to go to the table saw and rip them down to width. Alrighty. Okay, so we have our nice straight and square edges on all three of these. Let's see if I can try and hold this up there one-handed. Right here. All good. All good. Now I'm going to set up the table saw to rip these to the widest width I can get, because like I said before, I do not have the final measurements of the width of these. So right now I'm just going to get rid of all the nubs at the ends, and you guys can watch that. This I am not going to put in a time lapse. I'm just going to put regular time. So it might be a little loud, might not. Let's see, where can you watch from? Sure, let's go there. For this one, it's only 3 straight cuts, very short. I'm not going to bother hooking up dust collection. Typically I do, but something like this, it's only 3 cuts again. So I'm not going to bother. Right now I'm I'm just measuring what's the shortest length. You have on this one is 22 7/8. Over out of the picture, I have 22 3/4. Nope, correct myself, 22 1/2. And 23 1/4. So I'm just going to cut them all 22 1/2. Notice I'm shutting off the saw every time because I have the board stopped in between the between the blade and the fence. I don't want to risk getting it bound up or sucking my hand in. This is a downfall of not having an off-feed table that would catch my board. They have those rollers, but still they'll only support it. They won't actually stop it from falling off the floor. There's that. Those are cut down now. Next video is going to be of me cutting them to finish size, and then because I'm making them floating, I am putting in a dado along both long edges that's going to run across this area. All this in here is going to end up getting removed so it can accept a board that fits onto the wall and fits into this slot, which is called the dado. That way it's completely hidden fastening. You won't be able to tell how this is mounted onto the wall. It'll just look like a floating shelf. I'm going to end up going around 3 sides of it, both long edges, right across here, over across here, and then I'll choose whether this is the front or this is the front for each of them, and they will slide into place and be mounted that way. Alright, I look forward to seeing you guys next. I don't know when that'll be, probably another couple days before I get to this again. See you then. So, I'm back. I never mentioned storing wood after you mill it and after you glue it up. The best way to keep it stable and perfectly flat, no cupping and everything, is similar to this. I have, let's see, 3/4 by 3/4 inch boards that run nearly the full length, in between each layer. That way air can get equally at all edges and all sides. And then, because this is cherry, sunlight stains it. It will actually turn it brown. So I am covering it with a shipping blanket that I have. Alright, now it's goodbye. Hope to see you next time.